Broadcasting live from the Subaru of Gwinnett studio inside the Sonesta Gwinnett Place Atlanta Hotel. It's time for Travel Safely with Bryan Mulligan. Travel Safely is presented by Applied Information, creator of the Travel Safely smartphone app.
This special edition of Travel Safely with Bryan Mulligan features an installment from a limited series called Coping with COVID. Hosted by Bryan Mulligan, the president of Applied Information, Coping with COVID shares the stories and successes of people and organizations during these unprecedented times of dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic.
Hello and welcome to Coping with COVID. I'm your host, Bryan Mulligan. On this program, we'll help tell the stories and share the successes of people and organizations as we all deal with this COVID-19 pandemic. Our focus is on keeping people safe, but at the same time, re-energizing the economy. We can't do just one or the other. We have to do both. Our guest today is Frank Bieler, CEO of Phase Family Center in Alpharetta, an organization dedicated to shaping the future by building communities and among millennial families. Frank, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here with you.
Tell us a bit about the organization and how you came to be here in Atlanta doing what you're doing.
Sure. So at the end of the day, this whole idea of gather with friends, shape the future, we really felt like there was some space for improvement when it came to preschool space, both in the learning environment, how teachers are trained and developed, and what partnership with parents looks like. And so when we saw that gap, specifically with a younger generation that's having kids later in life, and so they're making decisions a little differently. They're looking for something a little different than maybe what the model used to be. So there was a pivot necessary right out the gate. And so we came with a new model, and then we actually decided to develop a co-working model to go alongside of it. We're the largest co-working operation in the nation with on-site licensed child care.
What does co-working mean?
Co-working, like WeWork. So it's that shared office space, that subscription office place, that common area where you pay a fee, you have access to conference rooms and a receptionist and whatnot. So you have this office space that gives you that flexibility to grow in your business. And so there was that, but no one really wanted to take that and merge that with children, and even though they're in separate spaces, so here I am going to work one place, I'm taking my kids somewhere else. Could we give the benefits of a large corporation environment where they have a fitness facility or child care facility? Could we merge it together?
Oh wow, did you come at this from the perspective of a businessman or as the perspective of an educator? What's your sort of background?
So yes would be the answer. So I'm an ex-insurance guy, president of a firm. We operated in 47 states. So I have that business acumen and passion for that. But then I saw a gap of how families could be served. So I come out of the church world as well, where I was overseeing 17 locations at a mega church with all these kids and volunteers. And there was just this need being developed over here in family space. And I had this passion with this business acumen. I was like, can I smash these two worlds together and really meet a need in a community?
Yeah, we've got quite a lot in common there because our business also has this real social responsibility side of trying to make a better life for us all in the future. And then came along COVID.
So, yes.
Talk us through what happened and how you guys have survived all that and what you're going to be doing.
Sure. So we're watching the news like everybody else, trying to make the best decisions with limited information and being overwhelmed with the same statements over and over again. So we, in mid-March, did what kind of our nation did, which was to slow the spread. Everybody stopped for 2 weeks. That'll be the beginning of this. So we closed for 2 weeks. We decided we were going to pay our teachers through that. We were going to still send out educational messages to families, and we were going to make it. But the challenge was those 2 weeks became 2 months. And then after 2 months, suddenly there's all these new regulations to even be able to open our business and what that could look like on caring for kids and families.
And so my understanding is you've moved away from the direct in-person model to a hybrid model. Is that fair to characterize?
Oh, yeah.
So how do you get education to the kids? How do you get socializing to the kids? How do you keep the parents engaged?
Sure.
Tell us some war stories about all of that.
Great question. So it's complicated because our preschool opened first. So we're taking care of infants and toddlers and 3-year-olds and trying to educate them and have teachers. But now parents aren't allowed in the building and they have to wear masks when they come to the front door to get their kids. So suddenly the relationship, the natural interaction that happened between teachers and parents kind of got interfered with as part of the protocols of keeping kids safe. So we have teachers running around with masks all day, kids, younger kids, not wearing masks, but keeping them clean and safe and doing all that, but having to use apps and technology to keep the communication between teachers and parents on a daily basis, a minimum of 3 to 5 messages per day going to parents from the teachers, so we can keep that interaction of both information and relationship. Well, in the midst of that, we were planning on kids going back to school this fall, these elementary age kids, and then suddenly the decision was made, not right now. Right? And so suddenly there was this huge need by families to say, we don't know how to home educate our kids, we don't know how to use this technology, and or I've got to work. I can't sit there all day and log my kindergartner into 5 classes, scheduled times, and get them to learn how to use Zoom. And so we opened something called on-site support for distance learning, a huge pivot for us. This didn't exist. This wasn't a thing, right? And so we had preschool, and then we usually did after school. We go pick up kids from an elementary school and take care of them in the afternoon. Suddenly, we're the in-between. So kids come with their technology. We help them get logged in. They connect with their teachers, part of the Fulton County school system, and then we have educators on site helping with homework and helping them navigate the technology in a 1-to-10 ratio. So we went from having 0 kids in a distance support program to suddenly having 150 new kids getting dropped off every day that needed this support so parents could work or navigate other things in life.
Oh, wow. So you actually collaborate effectively with the Fulton County school system, 100%. That the educators are still in the original classrooms, but you're providing the support environment that enables that to be maximized.
That's exactly right. And the first couple weeks were tough. 6th through 9th graders, they understood Zoom or Microsoft Teams, so they were doing fine. But suddenly you had kindergartners through 2nd graders that are used to an iPad with some games on it, and now they have a Chromebook and a mouse, and they can't swipe on the screen anymore, and helping them navigate all that was quite a challenge for all of us. The educators on the other side of the screen in Fulton County, for us, for our on-site educators, but honestly, 5 to 7 school days in, we started to find that rhythm, and suddenly, I think it ended up being a great partnership.
And so is this a formal partnership, or is just effectively you as a private sector company are just saying, we're just going to do a better job of helping educate your kids?
Yep.
In other words, just selling to the parents. You're not selling to the
private sector. We're partnering with parents going, we know that some of you just certainly aren't in a position, maybe you've got to go into work, maybe you're an essential worker. You can't. It was different in the spring. When schools started to close, everything was asynchronous in the education. You logged in when you could. You watched videos or whatever, you could do at nighttime, whatever. But suddenly, when school went back this fall, you had an 8 a.m. start time and a 9 o'clock class and 11 o'clock class. So suddenly, that didn't line up with people, even if they were working remotely, their schedule for work. So the parents needed some support. And we filled the program in less than 2 weeks from something that didn't exist, didn't even have terminology around it. So launching the program and meeting a need and filling it and creating a wait list within 2 weeks.
How do you go to market? I mean, or is it this word of mouth from parent to parent? Or?
We notified our current parents first. We gave them first dibs if they had an elementary school kid. But I'll tell you what I did was I bought the keywords that I saw the school systems talking about. So in Facebook and Instagram, when they said on-site support, when they said distance learning, I waited on them to announce the words universal remote learning, whatever keywords they had. And the fact was, we had already started developing the program before the final announcement was made that they weren't going to have school. So we were the very first to market. The day that they announced it, that night at 6 p.m., we had a full website with pricing and enrollment.
Wow,
huge pivot.
That's a fantastic story. And why it's a fantastic story is that's what entrepreneurial success is all about. It's developing the product at the right time, and it doesn't matter what the product is, whether it's technical widgets like we make or distance learning, to have the right product at the right time is what it's about. One of the things that our research shows is that this is going to be with us for a while. Talking about normalcy returning, perhaps at the end of 2021. So we're in this for a while. So I'm a big collaborative guy, and there must be potential to collaborate with the Fulton County system. But I understand how hard we sell to the government.
Sure.
I understand exactly how hard. If you had to look at that camera over there and say just one thing to the Fulton County school system about collaboration, what might that be?
I would say that parents need some clarity for sure, on how to actually implement it at home. Fulton County did a great job of rolling out systems and having the links and having everything ready and the educator on the other side of the screen. But Fulton County had to figure out a way, and maybe they couldn't feel the weight of going, but what if that can't happen on the other side? What if the parent can't stay home? What's done then? And so no one reached out to my organization to say, how can you help us? So we saw the need and stepped in. I am for sure that the Fulton County leaders saw the need that was going to be created. But it just, like the YMCAs and the other organizations that could have come alongside, kind of had a late go at trying to figure out how to come alongside parents. They didn't have the information. Kind of like Apple just released a new iOS, right? And this is one of the first times ever they didn't give anybody a heads up, right? Yeah. They announced it, and the next day it was live for everybody to download. So the developers had no time. So I would say when Fulton County was wrestling with this, when it started to become more and more of a possibility, where are we saying, who are the app developers on the other side that are going to come meet these other needs, and who's talking to them? Instead, it was like this recent iOS release where it was like, ta-da, all of you figure it out. And we were just like everybody else, but we could have come alongside and been more helpful.
Oh, that's a great point. And my turn to make a pitch to the government folks, whether it be in transportation or in education. We're not your competitors. Yeah. We're actually not the enemy. We're not competing for your business. We're there to collaborate. And so the business of calling a Fulton County public-private sector get together to exchange ideas about how together the private sector and the public sector, we can actually build a better planet.
100%. I agree with that.
Frank, thanks so much for being our guest.
Yes,
very helpful, informative, really interesting what you're doing, keeping it up. One of the things I do is normally talk a little bit about some data, applied information, turning data into information. And so one of the things we got is some data just from this morning of some of the current curves. And so what this shows is, the death rate in the United States, the initial curve, the second curve over here. But now we're settling into this routine of roughly 700 deaths a day on average. And that's kind of a problem. We sort of accepted that this is just how things are. And maybe that is a society of what we've chosen to tolerate. But what I want to do is just have a look at this next curve, and this is from some modelers one of the modelers that the White House uses for their predictions. And generally, what's accepted is anything out of a month forward is highly speculative. And so I'm not representing this to be the truth, but the speculation is that this curve over here is the projection that will happen if we sort of carry on what we're doing. We're gradually getting more and more lackadaisical, we're gradually getting more and more used to it. This curve over here, the lower curve, is what would happen if we had universal mask wearing. And again, this is just my big plea to, for the universal mask wearing. And I don't care whether it's government mandated or just privately adopted, whatever the case. We've got to take the responsibility of keeping our health, ourselves, healthy. But this curve over here is this last curve, which is this dramatic escalation, is what happens if we take our foot off the gas and just go back to like it was before. Everybody, some folks are clamoring for reopening, but this is what it means. There's another, which is this is a graph of daily deaths, and we think that it's sort of terrible right now, but acceptable. Again, this is the curve of the current projection. This is what would be if we have universal mask wearing, but over here, this is what we do if we'll rapidly, like Spain has done, has gone back to massive rates of infections. So that's the data reading of the day. This is data that I scraped this morning. And so it's just another example of where wear a mask, wash your hands, socially distance. We can reopen the economy and keep everybody safe. So thanks to Frank, and thanks for joining us today. On Coping with COVID, I'm your host, Bryan Mulligan. We'll see you again soon, and stay safe and stay healthy.